The moon landing, the thing we left there, in Ethnomythopoeia. It was the kind of summer evening that makes argument feel unnecessary. Neil Armstrong was doing what he preferred to do at gatherings, standing slightly apart, holding a beer he'd been nursing for a long time, watching the fireflies come up from the grass. His neighbor Carl found him there. Carl was a good man, worked with his hands, fixed things, didn't trust things easily, which Armstrong had always privately respected. Carl looked at his bottle for a moment, then said quietly, "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask me anything," Armstrong replied, and he meant it. Carl kept his eyes down. "Did you go?" Armstrong didn't stiffen, didn't sigh. He looked out at the yard, at the fireflies doing their small, precise work in the darkening air. He took a slow breath, then he said the only thing he knew how to say. "Yes." Carl nodded slowly, not in agreement, in the way a man nods when he is deciding how honest to be. "I want to believe you," Carl said. "I do. But there are things that don't add up for me. Things I've seen, things people have shown me." "I know," Armstrong said, not dismissively, as fact. Then, genuinely curious, "What would convince you?" Carl thought about it for a moment. He was the kind of man who actually thought before answering. "Something I could verify myself," he said finally. "Something that didn't require me to trust anyone." Armstrong nodded slowly, as if this were the most reasonable thing he'd heard all evening. "We left mirrors," Armstrong said. Carl looked at him. On the surface, retro reflectors, panels of corner mirrors designed so that whatever light hits them bounces straight back to where it came from. You fire a laser at that exact coordinates. You wait, photons come back. "How long?" Carl asked. 2.5 seconds, Armstrong replied quietly. There and back, the speed of light, the distance to the moon, 2.5 seconds. Carl turned that over for a moment, then asked, "Photons? Who can do that?" Armstrong looked at him steadily. He did not look away, he did not rush. "That's where I have to be honest with you, Carl. You'd need a powerful pulsed laser, a large telescope, sensitive photon counting equipment. It's not a backyard experiment, not for most people." Carl's jaws tightened slightly. There it was, the familiar door closing. "So I still have to trust someone in authority," Carl said. "Yes," Armstrong replied quietly. "To some degree, you do." He didn't try to soften it. He didn't try to reach for a better answer. He simply let the truth sit between them, the way honest men do. "What I can tell you," Armstrong continued, "is who has done it. Observatories in France, in Japan, in Italy, in Ireland, scientists with no loyalty to us, no reason to protect us, no stake in the outcome. The Soviets tracked us independently. The entire mission. They had every reason to expose a fraud. They were losing the space race and desperate for ammunition. Armstrong looked at Carl directly. They said nothing because there was nothing to say. Carl turned his bottle slowly in his hands. I'm not asking you trust me, Carl, Armstrong said. I'm not sure I'd ask that of any man. A pause settled between them. But I'd ask you to consider what it would take to fake all of that. Every observatory, every adversary, every scientist who owed us nothing, all of them silent, all of them wrong? Carl looked up at the moon. It hung there, unhurried and present, the way it always had. The fireflies moved through the dark between the two men. Neither spoke. We knew, Armstrong said, more quietly now. There would come a time when people would wonder. So we left something there, something that would answer on its own terms to anyone willing to find the means to ask it. He looked at Carl one last time. No pressure in it, no performance. We left it there for you, Carl. Carl didn't answer. He looked at the moon for a long time. The fireflies rose around him. The mirrors are still there. They are still waiting for anyone willing to find the means to ask. Then Carl looked at Armstrong, who was still gazing quietly at the moon, and Carl smiled, gently, warmly, the smile of a man who has arrived somewhere he didn't expect to arrive. You are a good man, Neil, he said softly, and I consider you my brother. Armstrong turned to look at him and smiled in return. The same quietness in that was in everything he did.